example, a friend of mine told me a story where he said that if he grows up and he's able to bring up an organization, form a company, it will be very difficult for him to employ women. And when he said this, I felt very scandalized because I told him that, well, in the world of work today, you don't necessarily need physical presence. For if a woman would go and give birth, there are other avenues where she can still, bring her work to bear and add to the productivity of companies. Hi there, and welcome to REFLO'S TV. It's your girl, REFLO'S Church. I'm here once again for another conversation. On this episode, we'll be talking about the gender pay gap. Gender pay gap. But don't forget that this video is powered by REFLO'S TV and REFLO'S Sanitary Pads. Your well-being is our number one priority because you deserve the best. Gender pay gap. Now, by the gender pay gap, we refer to the average differences when it comes to the remuneration of men and women in the working space. And it is very important to state that this is not only a Ghanaian problem or an African problem. This is an international problem. It can be found in so many jurisdictions across the world. And it's also very important to state that there is effective legislation and policy framework addressing these issues. And we question that why is it that even in the presence of this problem continues to persist. Now, referring to legislations and policies, in the US, there is a 1963 Equal Pay Act to address this issue of gender pay gap. When you go to the UK, there is the Equal Act of 2010, and in Ghana, there is a 1992 Constitution and the Labour Act 2003 to address this issue. Now, one would ask, why is there the existence of the gender pay gap? And a lot of reasons, but basically and fundamentally, we say that the various cultural, social, and economic factors do really combine to persist this problem in Ghana and in other jurisdictions. Now, when you're talking about culture, we're looking at the various cultural roles that are associated with the female gender. Now, the female gender in the past was looked at as only important in the context of how she was reproductive-wise efficient, or how she was also being able to, be domestic efficient. So how was she performing domestically, and reproductive-wise, how she was performing. Now, this has actually affected how people view the woman in the working world. Most people don't even, up till today, don't even think that women should really go into full-time working space, and it affects them in several industries. It affects their entry into jobs, it affects the amount of money they are being paid, and it even affects the perspective people have when it comes to their commitment and even their competence in the world of work. Now, we can also talk about the motherhood penalty, the penalty that women in the working world suffer because of their being mothers. And people think that at a point in time, a married woman or a woman would go and give birth as part of her reproductive abilities. And because of that, it's going to halt the process of work. And because of this, it is very difficult for certain women to enter certain jobs. Even in certain job interviews, you are told that for the first 3 years, we don't want you to get pregnant and give birth. And this is the motherhood penalty we are talking about. It affects the differentials when it comes to the pays being given men and women in the working world all around. And when I started, I talked about legislations and policies. Now I'm talking about how effective have these policies fared. If in Ghana we have the 1992 Constitution, if in the UK, in the US, we have other frameworks to back this issue or to address this issue, why is it that we are still having gaps in several jurisdictions all around the world? Then we can talk about how effective these laws have been. How are these laws being applied to the latter so that organizations who do not go by these dictates are made to face the full rigors of the law? These and many more are some of the problems that underlie the gender pay gap in Ghana and all across the world. What are some of the effects? Now, it affects women's ability to pursue higher education. Now, we talk about the educational gap that exists between men and women, and you realize that many women, because of the lack of finances, are unable to climb higher levels of academic excellence just because they do not have the money to finance education. We also talk about women representation in many decision-making places like politics. You don't have many women going into politics because you know that when it comes to politics, money is of the essence. And these women, they definitely don't want to be at a place where they'll be whisked away by the men. So you find a woman who is very ambitious, who really wants to go into politics, but she does not have the financial will to do that. And we talk about women's welfare, especially when it comes to retirement. How are these women able to save up to these moments to take care of themselves? So you realize that in a nutshell, it affects the empowerment and the well-being of the woman in total while she's working and even after work. And it is what has created that wealth gap, even when we talk about men and women. And all across the world, when you're talking about rich people, you see that it is men that, come on board more than women. And these are some of the issues that have contributed to the gender pay gap. What will I say? We should be able to stick to the legislative and policy frameworks that exist in countries. We should be able to apply the law to the latter so that we can have balance when it comes to salary, when it comes to pay across all genders. What do you think? How has this affected you? Do you have a story to back this thing that we are saying? We want to see that in our comment section. But do like this video, subscribe to our channel, and continue to feed on our content here. REFLO'S TV bring you nothing but the best. And this video is powered by REFLO'S TV and REFLO'S Sanitary Pads. Your well-being is the #1 priority because you deserve the best. See you next Monday for another exciting episode. Bye.